Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the LitRPG Podcast. I'm here doing a Q&A with one of my favorite people, Daniel Schinhofen. He's the author of Alpha World series, of Apocalypse Gate series, and of the Lost Horizon novels. We're doing a wonderful Q&A session celebrating Daniel hitting a milestone on his author Facebook page, and he's kind of helped just as a reward to the people who've been supporting him and his followers, doing a Q&A for them. So this is real simple. Everyone say hi to Daniel, and Daniel say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be awake for this.
Yep, it's always hard when you work nights to do anything during the day. It's like, oh, I'm just getting up. As we talked about a little bit before the live show, like I think we both understand. I used to work nights too, like the 10 to 6 a.m. shift. So it was always very interesting trying to function during the day. So, perfect. Let's see. We'll start off with a couple people in the chat. Marty saying hello. Cole Pie. We have Sheen Stone, Alex Keen. Everybody's hanging out there. They already writing some questions there. We'll be hitting a few of the... Actually, you went out of your way, and you actually did a contest. Like a way to encourage your readers and viewers to... submit questions. So we actually have like something like 80 something questions already prearranged. So we'll be switching between like those and the stuff from the live chat. So folks, feel free to comment if you're watching this live. Say hello. We'll read your comments on the air, and on the video version of this, people will actually see what you say. So, mindful of those typing things. Lucas Segal in chat says hi, as does Do Androids Dream, which is always fun to see them. So there you go. They said that I'm here to heckle you, the guy to keep you grounded. So
I've been heckled a lot in my life. It's fine. I grew up with sisters. I know how to ignore people when I need to.
Oh, I think you're smiling. I think you enjoy the idea of getting a heckler. Yeah, I see the smile on your face. Makes you feel very homey. Maybe that's what it is.
Reminds me of my sisters.
Yeah, there you go.
I ignore them as often as possible.
There you go. So we'll start off with a few questions about Alpha World. Kenny Parker asks, will Kaylee and David run into Albert in game? So that's our first question, man.
Well, that would be a spoiler if I gave it away. Or it might not be a spoiler if it never happens.
Yeah, that's the other thing about writing. You get to change your mind.
There's only so much I can say about things that could be potential spoilers. I will say you're going to have to wait and see.
There you go, folks. And just to give you a heads up, folks, the author may decline to answer any question he wants to, if it's going to spoil something or if he just doesn't feel like it. Like, I think I asked him about his size once, and he was like, Ramon, that's, I'm like, okay, fine, that's fair.
I'll answer that for you, Ramon, just not on camera.
Oh, well, see, there you go, folks. He's a very willing, open kind of guy. Okay, next question comes from Scott Banzalf. He says, what is your motive behind the free psychoanalysis in Alpha World? Is it the company or the AI?
That actually is the idea behind the succubi being able to help people with traumatic events was something that the company was doing. It's a side project behind lots of different things the company has going on. Using Albert Seamus as a test bed was put forward by somebody in the company, which I'm not divulging at the moment. Comes out later in the series. But it's because he is so broken that how much they can help him would be a good proof of concept for them on that regard.
Okay, perfect. That's a fair answer. From Chatwask, one of these questions, Alexis Keen says, what inspired you to write Albert? He's not a typical hero, which is extremely refreshing and seems to possess a steadfast but slightly warped moral compass in some errors. Maybe some areas is what they meant.
Well, I don't know. Albert Seamus, to me, is more of the prototypical hero than some of my other characters.
Yeah.
He just has a very strong sense of family and the what is right and what is wrong. The only part where he really waffles, which kind of gets answered in AW4, which comes out soon, is the whole monogamous, not monogamous thing that his succubus wife keeps pushing him on. Alvin, however, in Apocalypse Gates, his sense of morals and morality very much not normal.
Right. I never thought of Albert as being particularly like amoral, like weird, and like I think the fact that he, as Seamus, killed somebody to get a kind of revenge or closure or just justice, even though it is, for most people, murder is bad, he also submitted himself to justice, and he was more than willing to take the consequences of his actions, and no matter what they were. So I think that particular character trait is something that people can empathize with, because we've all felt, I think, once you get a certain age, that the world isn't just, and even though we wish it were more.
Yeah. If the world was a little more just, things might not be as bad as they are.
That's correct. So, yes, be the change you want to see, folks. Dun, 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 dun. The more you know.
The more you know.
Okay, next question. We'll go from Ronald Southwell Jr. Will there be reconciliation between Seamus, Albert, and Kaylee?
Once again, that is something that might or might not happen. It will come more apparent in the later book. I believe AW5 or AW6 is where it's slated to happen or not happen. So you're just going to have to wait on that one.
There you go. It may happen or not happen depending on how the story goes. That's a genuine answer. Like sometimes you may plan ahead for like, oh, this will happen in book 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But your character's story sometimes veer off of what you planned out.
Well, I had originally thought that Alpha World would last 5 books. It's going to last at least 7 at this point, because I did not wrap it up by the time I finished 5.
Yeah, I know. There's like so much stuff you want to do, or just like, oh, I have so many things that these characters want to do. Or this arc just took longer to write than I thought it was going to, and so it keeps pushing it back more. And that's not necessarily bad. You still have like an end goal. You have an end point for your series. So I think readers appreciate that there is a finality to this somewhere, even if it's like with some of there's maybe 2 books. This one possibly 7 now.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Next question. A comment from the Hermes, actually. Cole DePoy says he thinks your book should last like 10 at least. So
I could, if I really wanted to, stretch the series out for a very long time. But what I set as the start and end points and the major milestones will wrap up by book 7. So at that point, it would just be elongating to try to make more money off of it, which to me devalues the overall story. And I don't want to do that. I want the story to be what it is.
There you go. See, folks, an honest actor. He likes money still. Don't worry. He'll still take all those royalty payments from Amazon.
Yeah, I love it when they throw cash at the screen and ask me for the book right now. Too bad it doesn't actually come through my screen, though.
Sometimes. I think I have some change I can throw at my computer. Hold on. Okay, next question. Let's see. Ben Downton asks, with the next update, will long-term players meet Vicky? And you may have to explain to the audience who hasn't read the series who Vicky is.
Vicky, Victoria, her actual full name, though nobody really calls her by that anymore, is the AI handler that they gave Albert Seamus when he was put into the game originally. She was going to be his point of contact. She's partially his therapist, partially his guide to make sure that he doesn't go off horribly. Partially a parole officer, as the person next to me has reminded me. Oh. She's there to make sure that things go and he doesn't break the NDA and so on and so forth. There will be people other than Albert that do interact with her at some point. I am not going to say at what point in the series that happens or what the interactions end up being, but other people do meet her, but not everybody will end up meeting her.
Okay, sweet. Good answer. And is there someone in the room feeding you answers?
My girlfriend / partial editor is just sitting off to my right who is reminding me of things as I go because my memory is a sieve. I take that back. Civs stop more than my memory.
No, that's awesome. I love the fact that your girlfriend / editor is like hanging out. I was like, no, this is wrong. It's this thing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, my wife has done that to me as well. It's like, oh, no, you did this scene already in book 1, or like, no, this is wrong information. It should be this thing. As she's like editing for me as an alpha reader. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you try to keep like extensive notes, because like proper names of places and things, and like they go out of my brain after I finish that novel. So if I don't keep track of them somewhere, it's like, oh, then I have to like search through a novel to like find out like an actual like proper answer for something.
Yeah, no, that's why I have cheat sheets for that.
Yeah, that's out here. Okay, let's see. Next question. Clint Golden asks, will Vicky join the game?
She will not be a player.
Okay, that's totally fair. So I'm thinking in my head, mini boss, big boss. Maybe I suppose she got the capability of like taking over other NPC characters at some point as an influencer. Ooh, maybe a demigod or a god. Oh, eyeballs raised. I think I hit something, but that's okay. We won't spell things. Do androids dream asks, when will becoming a full-time writer be in the cards for you, and what will you have in store for us when that happens? And that's from live chat.
I've considered becoming a full-time writer. It's something I'd actually love to do. I'm not as brave as like Ramon, who jumped right off into it. I want to go at least to the end of this year, 2 full years of seeing how the income falls to make sure it's sustainable and viable first, because I have a very decent full-time job that I still work that is stable, and they would need a crowbar and a hammer to pry me out of normally.
Yeah.
So giving that up is pretty big. So I want to make sure at least 2 years of income stack up right, and it looks like I'll be able to sustain it before I go full-time. As for what that would mean in store for my fans, I'm not sure. Maybe an extra book or 2 a year because I'd have more time to write. Though most of my writing slows down behind editing. So
yeah. Now, so do you still do your own editing, or do you have other people who are doing it? Because that was one of the things that I think a couple other authors talked about. Like, they do the writing, and then they just kind of hand the editing off to other people, and then they can continue writing.
Once I finish a story through, and I end it, I go back at the start and I give it a pass myself, just to double check and catch a lot of the really egregious stuff. I then give it to my girlfriend, who goes through it. And when she gives it back to me, I go through it again. And then I hand it off to the other editor that I've started using, which is Daniel Stetson. And then he goes through it. And then I will normally look at it one more time. And then I hand it off to my beta readers, who are currently in the process of finding yet even more stuff or suggesting things that I should change, which is why AW4 isn't out right now and will be out next week.
I see. Okay, there you go. Honest answer. I agree that for me, like finding people who I can trust and who are professional editors, whether they're line editors or development editors, is really useful, just because it saves me time that I could be using to write like another book. If you add like another like novel, just 1 per year, it kind of covers the cost, depending on your sales, of course, of like using those professionals. But more than that, it saves you a ton of time. Because before I was doing all my editing myself, and I was just like, it was just so many tedious hours of like going through spell check and Grammarly and looking at all the little notes and details, and just like multiple days of editing. And then you do it multiple times because other people see it and they catch things and you change things. And it's just like, oh, it's, for me at least, it was like easier to just say, hey, I will pay you money if you would do this for me. And ultimately it saves me enough time that it's justifiable.
Well, the other part for me is because we occasionally get the questions, what would you suggest, advice would you give to new writers?
Right.
My biggest advice normally is treat it like a business.
Yeah.
You need to already plan how everything's going to work out as a business. For me, that means something I didn't do originally, which was if you are successful and you make money, the government will demand most of it. So things like editors are also things you can write off as expenses for writing.
Right.
So the fact that I have to pay an editor also helps defer some of the taxes the government's going to take from me anyway. So not only is it useful for making the book better, it's useful at the end of the year when the government says, pay me.
Yep. No, and that's totally true. That's something that I think people who want to be full-time authors don't always realize. Like, there is a legitimate business and tax side of this. That's also something to learn, because that's one thing I had to do. I was like, oh, that's right, I'm an independent business now. If I write for myself, and that's my income. So I had to figure out taxes, and I had to get an accountant. I'm like, it was all very new to me. So like authors will give me advice when I ask it. That's one of the things. Like, it just, all those things you do, write-offs. I'm like, yay. So there you go. Let's see, what else do we have? Lucas Segal says, will Albert end up finding the full armor set he was wearing?
The Demon Lord set? That comes with some pretty nice buffs. I'm sure that he'd love to find all of it. Whether he'll find all of it would come out more in the stories. I mean, I'd hate to give away something that spoilery. I
just always assume, because once you start a set, like, it's generally like those are your like long-term goals, like rewards for like your quest lines, right? I just figured at some point he'd collect it all, like maybe before the last book and the big last battle or something.
Yeah, but what if he is always missing that one last piece by the time the series ends?
Oh, like
that would be horrible.
That would, like, and what if it was like weird Willy P was like, oh, the last set piece is like a cod piece. I'm like, oh, there you
go. Life is life. Sometimes you don't always get everything. Just a thought.
I think that would be super funny. Okay, let's see. This question might be a little spoiler, so I don't know that you're going to answer it, but Clifford Kingston asks, is Kaylee now Vicky the AI? Ooh.
She is not Vicky the AI. Okay. Kaylee is Kaylee, Vicky is Vicky, and I'm going to leave that there.
Okay. I've always like hypothesized myself, like, oh, well, maybe Kaylee's in the company somewhere, and she helped get him into the program as, I don't know. It was one of the things I was curious about myself.
That question will be answered more in the series.
Oh, see there. Well, that's good to know, at least. Let's see. Same question, like Jay Porter asks, is there a connection between Stacia and Vicky? So a lot of Vicky questions.
There is a connection. Probably not the connection you think, though.
No. Probably isn't. And if it was the connection you thought, he might change it this instant.
No, that part has actually been written already. Okay. I've written 4's almost out. I've already written 5. It's with editors.
Okay, perfect. See, there you go, folks. Like, these things are going to come out back to back. Nice. Let's see. Next question from Kevin Sanks. Does Vicky have any real world control besides the cameras in the lobby?
No, she has certain leeway where it comes to mind blown in their property, but like, she couldn't hack the government, take over the nukes. She can't do what Thalen did at the end of Last Horizon.
Oh, you see, folks, he's already thought ahead on that one. Good for you. Let's see. Peter Neves asks, will Vicky play a character just to be closer to Albert?
No.
Okay. So again, we already said she's not going to be a player character, which means other kind of characters maybe. Let's see. This is sort of, I guess, related. Alex Frankel says, will Vicky tell Samus that she is Kaylee and she is actually the first tester? You've already said, though, that Vicky and Kaylee aren't the same person.
Not the same person.
So there you go. That one's already asked and answered. Carl Poff asks, will Albert end up in the real world permanently?
Will Albert end up in the real world or Alpha World?
In the world. So I'm assuming Alpha World.
I'm assuming Alpha World.
Yeah.
He will not end up in Alpha World permanently. There is things that happen. You will find out as the book goes along.
Okay, there you go. No spoilers, folks. Let's see. Raymond Jeffries asks, will Fluff and Karen ever know the truth behind Albert's memories?
Next question.
Oh, okay, there you go. Okay. Let's see. Will Seamus ever see Kaylee again?
Will Kaylee ever see Seamus again?
I mean, prisoner visit? I think there's like some resolution that could be really I guess, helpful for him at some point. Or are you just thinking like how to say it without spoiling things?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't say.
Okay. Well, there you go, folks. My hypothesis that at some point you will see them reconnect, and it'll be like because remember a lot of this, and this is just me spitting out hypotheses. A lot of the stories about his recovery from his trauma of killing the guy and the things that he did to his mind and a bunch of other stuff. Like as the story goes on, it's been like more like flashbacks in his dreams about trauma that has occurred. So I think it's a very good possibility that would be part of his recovery process at some point. But again, that's my hypothesis, not the author's. He's kind of giving me a dirty look, so I'll move on. Let's see. I'll go with TJ because asks, how do the devs plan to keep those who need help to meet succubi for help to get?
Oh, so the people who could use the help from the succubi fixing their memories or dealing with traumatic events. It's not really a spoiler, so I'll mention it. Albert asks Vicky this exact question at one point, I think in AW4. And it comes down to there are a set of quests that can be gotten to or given out that would help.
Okay, so something still like in the game mechanics and in the game rule system. Okay, that seems fair. Let's see. Zach asks, Zach Stufflebeam. You have like the funnest reader names, I have to say. When do we find out what really happened in the courthouse?
That would be AW5, okay. Alpha World 5.
Perfect. Yeah, that's totally on the answer. Good job. Barry Jurickson asks, will anyone with a military background join the guild?
It's not something I had planned out. I had the core that I had built around Albert at the start, the group that he's been traveling with that started Alpha Company. So no, I haven't planned for that. It's not, to me, it would be more of a shoehorn in that, I just happen to have the retired Army vet who can lead them through the major raid, which seemed just a little too convenient or shoehorned. Some of the people who are already in the guild might be retired military. I mean, it's not something I've thought of everybody's back histories for. I think in AW4 there's like over 300 people in the guild or something. So,
you mean you don't have them all named out on an Excel sheet with like character descriptions, names, and like background information?
Yeah, totally. Okay,
there you go. Yeah, there you go. Always useful for the narrators who do your stuff. Like, oh, here's a character name and something to remind me about it. Let's see. Okay, Shane James asks, will there be an item late game to let a person change their class?
It's a good suggestion. I had not planned for it. There is an item that will let somebody respec their already taken abilities, because I figured that was something that would be really useful for late game things. Oh, that one ability I took back at level 5 doesn't really work for me anymore. Yeah. I'd really love to have the other one instead.
Or like there's an upgrade or like a server change that changes the dynamics. And now this ability I love is kind of gimped, so I wanted to shift it out for something else.
Well, the devs have been good at that point when they've really readjusted things like all the minions no longer having loyalty. They went back and reset all the classes that had minions so they could do things differently. But just the first one for level 5 for Albert is changing the words and motions needed for spells or 10% more fire damage. He took the one just because it's more fun if I was in a really immersive game and basically going to live there, to be able to say what I wanted and do what I wanted motion-wise for a spell than having to just use the base rote spell base that the company gave out.
All right, I think that's a really good
10%
decision.
Fire damage is kind of good. If you're min-maxing, you take it. But if you're not, then maybe you take the other one because it'd be more fun for you.
Right, and the fun thing is really important when you're kind of stuck there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, a couple comments from the chat room. Lucas Siegel and Alexis Keen both love the questions we're getting. Like, hey, mate, loving these questions. And yeah, these questions are awesome. So the live chat room is enjoying how things are going.
You can blame my fans. They gave all these questions to us. Of course, I did dangle T-shirts in front of them and asked them to dance for me first. So this is all them.
Now, see, I've done my dancing, and now I have my T-shirt. There we go. Works for everybody. Let's see. Bradley White asks, why do Alvin and Seamus have the same personality with such different backgrounds?
So I've heard that complaint that my two main characters from my two current series are similar, and I don't think they are. There is some overlap, but Seamus Albrecht is very much a morally centered individual. Alvin isn't. Alvin will kill someone who he thinks is in his way. So if you have not read Apocalypse Gates, he kills a trucker who he thinks is going to attack him before the guy actually attacks him. Shoots him dead. No qualms. Seamus wouldn't do that. The person Seamus killed attacked what he considered his daughter, or his best friend's daughter, but he considered her his daughter. That's the only person he had killed. They're morally different. Some of the things that they say come out the same. I'm one person. I base my characters off of people I've known or people I currently know. And then, of course, there's always a sprinkle of me that ends up there because I'm the one writing it. But when Apocalypse Gates continues, you should be able to see more of a deviation, I guess, between them. So
as things get wilder and wilder, it's like, oh yeah, they're nothing alike at some point. There will be other qualities that you're bringing into both characters. They both stem from you. The entire genesis is from your mind. Even if you're basing them on other people, like the decisions they make still in part, I think, come from a part of you, which is what Ashley Black asked. She asked, how much like Seamus are you?
To a degree, I am. I still have a little bit of the old world, how you should treat women mentality to me. Take their arm, open a door, treat them like ladies.
I think I heard somebody cheer in the background.
So in that regard, I'm a little bit like him. If somebody had done that to my best friend's daughter, had raped her, beaten her, and left her for dead, I very well might end up in that same position because there's just some things I don't abide, and that would be one of them.
There you go, folks. Next one, Ian McAdams asks, what would the minions be if he went Holy Summoner?
So the minions, the base type, since it's a game, would stay the same. Instead of an imp, you'd have a cherub. So instead of casting fire, they would be shooting arrows out of their little bows. The destroyer would end up as an archangel, giant, fully armored, holy sword type of gentleman. And the succubus would end up being a seraphim, but instead of seduction and that kind of mind control, it would be more of a sermon repent type of mind control.
Right,
making people feel sorry for their actions instead of, hey, you really like me, do what I want you to do.
Right. And you kind of mentioned that description, I think, in the novel, when he gets the chance to respec, when they change things, they give kind of a description there. And when you said, though, cherub would shoot an arrow out of his, I could have sworn you were going to say butt instead of his bow and arrow. I think it's a much more interesting mechanic, the way I was thinking about it.
That would not be very angel-like, though.
It's like divine retribution from Uranus. Yeah. There you go. Okay. Do Andrew Dream asks, what do you end up editing out of your books?
Depends on the book. What I've edited out, errors and mistakes, by and large.
Good choice.
I had a friend ask me the other day, had I ever rewritten a book? And the answer is yes. Apocalypse Gates, what is out there is not what I wrote the first time I wrote it. The main character, Alvin, didn't do what he was supposed to do and ended up way more like Seamus, way more the nice guy, let me help people, as opposed to, fuck this, I just want to make sure that I'm good. See, because Alvin doesn't care so much if the settlement survives so much that it gives him XP, and that's what he cares about.
Right. So
I rewrote that entire book once. I wrote it in 4 weeks, and then rewrote it again in 5 weeks. It was a really fast write. It was a really good book for me for writing. But normal editing out, mistakes, errors, nothing major. That was the only major edit I'd ever really done.
So, I guess this is my question then, because this is happening before. Like I'll have like a beta reader or like another author go through my stuff, and they'll make a suggestion. I'm like, oh, I'm not really feeling this particular section of it because maybe I'm not getting resolution, or like, oh, maybe you could do something with this particular thing to pump it up a little bit because that helps, advance the character or highlight this other thing happens later. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, my beta readers give me that advice. This section isn't worded right. Maybe you should think, would she really act this way? Those things. Normal inclusions, I get very rarely get a you should add this in as a suggestion.
Excellent. Okay. Let's see. Leo Gorgon asks, will we learn about Delta World soon? Or like, I think there's a couple of those questions. Like, will we learn about Beta World, Delta World?
So the world after Alpha World is Delta World. It's mentioned here or there. I think for the first 3 books, it's mentioned more in book 4, and it's mentioned more in book 5. So things slowly come out more and more about what Delta World might be.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's see. Brandon Borden asks, is there going to be more guild interactions, like a guild versus guild tournament?
I don't have any plans for a guild versus guild tournament, or even like the carnival that was in Last Horizon. However, book 6 and book 7, which deal with events across the continent, if not the world, for Alpha World, will have more guild and guild interaction between different guilds because of the things that are going on.
Okay.
And I don't want to spoiler it too much before it happens.
Right. No. So the general answer, yeah, well, guilds will interact more. So that's perfect. Let's see. Eric Hontas, will the Demon Lord set be unique? Set being unique, would it be locked out forever if someone else found the missing pieces first?
The patch note, I believe it was in 2, it might have been 3. If you had picked up a piece of the armor, it was locked out for those people who had already started to collect it. So if you did not already have a piece, you wouldn't be able to collect the rest of it. They put in different, lesser powered armor sets that they felt would be better if more people got a hold of.
Okay, so only the people who've already started that quest line can complete it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. You've had to have had a piece before they locked it down. And if multiple people had a piece, then those people would be able to eventually would be able to find the pieces to finish a set.
Okay, perfect. Which means that there are multiple sets of that same armor?
There are, when I created it and I thought about it originally, there should be 9 sets of that armor for each class.
Oh, I see.
Scattered throughout the world. So there was a chance that 9 people could each have that armor set for each class. Since that lockout happened, it's nowhere near that many.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's see what else we have. Chancey Brown asks, which character from Alpha World would you do a spin-off novel for? Now, multiple people ask this kind of question.
Oh, wow. Spin-off novels. I'm normally not really good on spin-off novels. But of all the characters I've written for Alpha World, I don't know. I think Vladimir would be fun. I wouldn't be adverse to writing a short story, at least, on Vladimir's backstory. Something about a vampire with an agenda has a certain appeal to me.
Yep. Some folks in time suggest definitely Fluffball. Kenny Parker suggests. I actually think you could do backstories like that for the entire cast. Just like do a short story collection. Like, oh, these are their little individual adventures.
Well, Fluff is tied into the main storyline.
Okay.
So, and her history comes out in AW4. What really is going on with Fluff comes out in AW4. And so anything other than a spin-off there doesn't really work, considering she's mostly tied to the hip now with the group. So
there you go, folks. Asked and answered. And just in the chat room, guys, if I'm not asking your question yet, that's just because we're going to get to each one of the books by characterization. So right now we're focusing generally on Alpha World. After the Alpha World questions, we'll definitely ask questions about Apocalypse Gates and Lost Horizons. So I don't want you to think that I'm ignoring you in the chat room, guys. Okay, let's see. And I'm also okay. Let's see. Oh, Tabitha Tomasetti asks, what inspired you to write the AW books?
Actually, the Alpha World books, the premise behind it with the main character was having a conversation with a coworker. I work in a correctional facility. I work in a county detention center. And I was talking to one of my guards who has kids. And the idea came up of how would they react if that happened to their child. And I'm fairly certain I have that pretty well answered at this point in the series. So that was the basis behind the character. The world itself was what you find for a lot of lit RPGs. What if this was one of the first few fully immersive games that came out? And how would that work? What would the company do to test the technology behind it? Setting up with this is our first fully immersive game, here's a giant sandbox, I think wouldn't give a good baseline behind what the tech could and couldn't do. So I based it more off of the MMOs we have today. These are set classes. They have these set abilities, because that would give the company a greater feedback on just how well the fully immersive part of it really works over time. And if it really works, then you get more of an open sandbox, which we haven't seen really since the beginning of Star Wars Galaxies.
Oh no, yeah, that one's way open. Like get lost in that world and can kind of do anything else, and you can
before they destroyed it and let everybody become Jedis.
Yeah.
But that was the basis behind how would the game world work the way it does. Why would Alpha World be the way it is? They're testing the technology behind it to make sure it works. And if it works, then maybe they offer a newer game that's more open, something more Delta World like.
That's the same thing. I was like, Delta World. Yeah. Okay, a couple questions from chat that I think are pretty good. The Only Hydra Spoon asks, is Bob a real person?
The imp is an NPC. He's one of the small AIs that inhabit the world that make it lifelike.
Alternate version of that, is Bob based on a real person?
The AI program for the world and the smaller subsets that make up the people of it all have a basis behind how personalities work. Was it a specific person? No.
Okay. There you go. Perfect. Thank you very much. Let's see what else we have here. Another question about inspiration. Cole Deputy asks, what did you draw inspirations from in regards to characters and settings? I think you already talked about settings for Alpha World, but what about characters?
Depends on the series. Last Horizon is very much built off of the people I used to play WoW with. The Guild the Bananas was my close set of friends that did raids. So that is every single character you find in that book is based off of people who've given me permission to use them, those poor suckers, as people as characters for my books. Alpha World, it's still friends and family and coworkers that all get pulled in and pieces removed and then more pieces added. They're collage based more than anything else. And Apocalypse Gates, Alvin is a couple of friends. If you take the more not greedy, self-centered side of people, the idea that I need to worry about me and screw everybody else, that is Alvin.
Okay, so you don't know an actual Alvin somewhere, and you're like, oh, these are just notes. Yeah, okay, yeah, that'd be very...
I swear, it's totally not.
Yeah, so there you go.
Gothy, though, is based off of two women I've known personally in my life who've had rough pasts. So that one character is just two people put together.
Okay, perfect. Very honest. Thank you very much. Let's see. I think this one's Sean Stone asks, if you could be any class in Alpha World, what would it be? I think that's kind of an unfair question because you know long-term builds of like each character class and where this is going.
I've been a pet class for most MMOs I play. I like having a small mobile army that listens to me. The only two in Alpha World are Necromancer and Summoner. And considering Necromancer has to deal with the undead, and if your immersion is turned up in any way, you get the undead rot, which I think is glossed over by like most other people who write like Necromancer books. The fact that you'd have the rotting sense of decay just permeating your existence.
Hard to make it with the ladies with that kind of smell.
So for me, if I had to choose between those two, I'd take Summoner. And since I'm not exactly a devout individual, I'd probably do it. Alvaret's done. But the other part that I love about games is stealth-based classes. And there is a stealth-based class that hasn't really gotten a whole lot of attention. I mean, everybody knows the Trapsmith. Everybody knows the Assassin. The Shadow Dancer is only vaguely touched upon, I think, twice in the series. And I haven't shown any of their kit yet. And I hope that comes out more in AW6 to touch more on those. The Shaman, who hasn't had a whole lot of attention given to him, the Shadow Dancer, those other classes that I've mentioned that have been put to the side because I've been following a major story arc.
Right, and you already have people with classes in general. Like these other side classes just haven't come up yet. So when you do talk about the Shaman class, are you going to make any of the Way the Shaman jokes?
Actually, no. The way Shaman works for AW, what I have planned out is they deal with dead spirits more than anything else. They deal with the spiritual essence of people who are alive, or the spirits that are stuck in the world. So there are a couple enemy classes that are spirit based that shamans would be phenomenal against, but everybody else has a little harder of a time with it. So they're more of the, I don't want to say Native American. They're more of a original tribe shaman dealing with animal spirits and people spirits than Way of the Shaman. Hey, look, I have a dragon that, it's awesome.
I have a dragon totem. Look at me transform.
Yeah. The Shadow Dancer, though, is one of the classes I'm going to show more of, because the idea of a rogue who can use shadows at their discretion is something that I've always enjoyed the idea of.
That's cool. Excellent. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. What is Mary Sue's character class?
Priest. I'm pretty sure I said it.
Yeah.
She's a priest. She follows not justice. She follows peace, I believe. I'd have to go back and check my notes. One of the two human deities, justice and peace. So she's a light priest. That's why her healing hurts undead and infernals.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Let's see. What would happen if AW became independent from the real world? And that's from Kyle Dosetti.
Some people would probably go insane for the simple fact they can't get back to their friends and family. You have to figure most of the people who are playing it as a game. And those people would probably have breakdowns across the board. For some of them, like Mary Sue, Fluff, they'd love it, because both of them have mentioned before the fact that they would love to be there more than they had been.
Yeah,
but by and large, I think there'd be a major breakdown for most of the players.
Mm-hmm. I always like the way that Sword Art Online kind of did it in the animated version. Like there was just such a swath of like reactions being told, you're stuck in the game and you're going to die if you die in the game. Like some people just broke down and cried. Other people went and got really angry and just like, so I was like that visual scene of like those people breaking down. And
other people committed suicide, which I think is something else that would very probably happen.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of good stuff there. Let's see. Do you play any MMOs, and have they influenced your AW series? You mentioned, I think, WoW already, right?
I played I don't play any MMOs anymore. Between work and writing, who has time for really a MMO, which you have to devote hours to, at least a week, if not a day. I've played WoW, EverQuest, Dark Ages of Camelot. The standards you would expect somebody my age to have played.
Yeah, I think we talked about this before. Like we've played a lot of the same MMOs, like Shadowbane and a bunch of other games, and like all the ones you mentioned already. It's like, yeah, but as like an author in LitRPG, like I can make a better world than these games can kind of do right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but those games, the idea of those games really influenced Alpha World in the fact that here are your classes. They get these spells, they get these abilities. Because like I said, when I wrote the world, the idea behind it was the company is testing the technology.
Right.
So there's points to it. Apocalypse Gates is very much more open than Alpha World because that's the way the company is handling the system. So it really comes down to company and system more than anything else when I write.
Okay, perfect. Question from chat room says, Alexis Keen, will there be any more patches? And if so, will they dramatically change Alpha World?
Every game gets patches. I can't think of any game that doesn't get a patch. That's one of the reasons I deliberately have patch notes in Alpha World, because it's a game. It should have those things. If you have an MMO that just came out a month, 2 months, 3 months ago, there will be things that they go, oh, we didn't catch that bug, or that's game breaking, we didn't realize it. And those things need to be addressed. Even the quality of life things, like most of the summoners having issues because they start with imps, and imps are assholes. Pardon my language. They don't get along, which means you took the less loyal, most powerful minion, and your loyalty is through the floor, and he doesn't really want to listen to you so much. So one of the reasons patch notes came in and took away loyalty, because a lot of people who are playing summoners really had problems.
No, that's fair, and that's totally true. So thank you for answering that. Kenny Parker asks, will Albert ever go over his father issues about only one woman? That way Karen can join the family. I think that's the same answer you gave me last time.
Spoiler.
Yeah, that look was definitely the answer. Okay, last question for Alpha World, and then we'll move into questions for Apocalypse Gates. But this one is from Nathan Powell. When will the audio to AW4 be out, and will Peter Burkhardt be narrating it?
That's all up to Podium. The Alpha World series in its entirety is signed over to Podium. When I signed with them, I signed for the series. Because I was really shocked when somebody wanted to do audio of my books as it was back in the day, which was back in the day, a year ago, back in the day.
It seems like such a long time, though. It does.
It does to me, the whole journey. So they have the whole thing. When I go to publish it here in a week, I send them the manuscript copy, and then they set up with their narrator, and then they take care of all the rest of it. By and large, it seems to be about 3 months on average for them to turn it around. Whether or not Peter Burkhardt is doing the narration again is entirely up to Podium. Since they already had him do the first 3, I would find it hard to believe he's not going to do the series. But business is business, and I'm not Podium.
Yep, there you go. That's a genuine answer. And my question was like, the specific release date for Alpha World 4, what was that again?
March the 1st.
March the 1st, folks. So there you go. You get to know when Alpha World Book 4 is coming out. March the 1st. We'll definitely add it to the upcoming LitRPG list when we get some cover art from you.
I have considered putting it out a day early, so.
That would be the 28th. There's like 5 other novels coming out on the 28th, though.
Yeah, well, there's like 5 other novels coming out on the 1st, too.
Okay, that's true.
You have to remember, and this is going off the Q&A for a minute, there is a thread in one of the groups about authors putting out books at the same time. Mm-hmm. My book comes out the same time as Willie Moran's next book, Dungeon Deposed.
Yeah.
And the last 2 of my books have come out basically like within a day or 2 of one of Will's books coming out. Mm-hmm. There's nothing quite like knowing your book will always be the bridesmaid.
Why don't you delay then? I mean, like, generally,
because that's not what I do.
Okay.
My fans want the books, and I want to put them out there. I want people to read them. It's a little slightly frustrating in the back of my mind because I'm a competitive person at heart.
Yeah.
Knowing that for me to overachieve Will would take a monumental effort. But at the same time, the idea of the competition being there, even though it's not, is kind of fun. I will never delay my book because somebody else is putting out a book. You guys want it, I want to give it to you. If it means I get smacked upside left, right, and center because, Blaze and Will and Aileron and everybody's releasing their books right now, okay, I'll be fourth place. That's fine.
No, yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. Like, being competitive is definitely a part of it. I think the competitive spirit is not unhealthy. It helps us to become better writers because we want to do better and we're motivated to do so. I find that to be a very healthy aspect. At the same time, some people who release this I feel really bad for, because I was like, oh, you decided to release the same week that Aileron Kong did, and like that novel is such a time suck, and even not so much a money suck, but it's definitely 22,000 words, 2,200 words, pages rather. Is just like such a commitment for some people if they're not going to read anything else this week.
For an author who's putting out their first book,
yeah,
I would understand maybe where you would deviate a little bit, maybe push it off a week because, like Will's releasing on the 1st.
Right.
Maybe you want to put it out on the 7th then instead. That I would understand. But if you're already established, then the people who want to read your book will read your book.
Right.
They'll probably pick it up. They might not read it that day. Mm-hmm. They'll probably be sucked in by whoever else released. But they'll get to your book if you're an established author. Right. And if you're a first-time author, though, that is where I would very much pay attention to like the top 4 or 5 authors and maybe not release within a day or two of them.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty fair. You found your audience to be fairly consistent with your release dates, like about the same number of purchases as the last one, no matter who you're releasing it around necessarily. So I think that's a good observation. On to some Apocalypse Gate questions. Let's see, we have one so far. There's not a lot of Apocalypse or Lost Horizon Gates questions, guys. Apocalypse Gate question is from Chris Fokker. Any chance the Lost Horizon characters coming through a portal in Apocalypse Gates?
No. Each of those 3 series at the moment they're distinct and separate. Each of those 3 are based off the idea of a company being one of the first to release a fully immersive game. I have things I can do with the characters from Last Horizons. I know I have a small subset of fans who clamor for more from them, mm-hmm. and there are things I can do. There's a world I had plans for them that I might eventually go back to and give you more of David and Will and his friends. But at the moment, I only want to have 2 series being written at the same time at the most, because otherwise I think you end up with that, well, this series hasn't released in over a year, and I'd rather have I'm going to try to release a book every 3 months. So with 2 series, if I rotated, it would be a book every 6 months, which is doable. But especially for LitRPG, if you don't put a book out in a series about every year, you're going to have a lot of drop off.
Right. Because they've moved on to other things. And it's like an MMO. If they're not regularly engaged in your stuff, they'll find something else. And that's also the drawback and plus, I guess, of the system. I just remember I had an audiobook question for you. Like you said that Podium does your Lost Horizon series.
Podium does Alpha World.
Alpha World, sorry.
Tantor does Last Horizon.
Who does Last Horizon again?
Tantor.
So Tantor, Podium. Are you self-publishing the Apocalypse Gate series?
I am, actually. Andrea, and I'm going to butcher her last name,
Parsnew? Yeah.
Is narrating that. She is currently in production for it.
Cool. Now, is she doing it by herself, or is she going through like somebody else? I know she works with Jeff's production company, I think, sometimes. Or is
she does work with Sound Booth Theater a lot. I had it up for trials for whoever wanted to do it, but I made sure that she was notified because I heard her do Wild Wastes.
Right.
And she does really good, and I know she can handle the content that's in the author's cut.
Okay.
So I was very much leaning towards her as it was, and then when I got her sample, she does her normal phenomenal job, so I signed her to do it. But it is through her. It's actually, I don't believe it's through Sound Booth Theater.
Okay.
I really was considering Jeff, but considering some of the content is adult-based, and if I'm listening to an audiobook that has graphic sex scenes, I'd much rather have a sexy woman's voice telling me those than a gruff man's voice telling me those.
Especially if you know Jeff and you're like, you can imagine him saying these things. I'm like, that totally was a boner killer.
I really don't need Jeff whispering sweet nothings in my ear at all.
Okay, so I guess one question first is like, so are you doing an author's cut audiobook and a PG-17 cut, I think it was, or are you just doing the author's cut?
Just the author's cut. I'm still on the fence about whether or not I'm going to continue through with the PG-16 version of Apocalypse Gates. The disparity between them was huge.
Like, what do you mean the disparity? Like the response disparity,
like 40 to 1 books sold disparity.
In favor of which one?
Author's cut.
Okay.
So 40 of those sold to 1 book of PG-16. Just a huge disparity.
Okay, no, that's fair. Like a lot of times the number of reviews you get and the number, it matters, especially if you're like trying to get like top 100 on Amazon where they give you that bonus thing. Like those getting everyone on the same cut is important. Yeah, so that was one of the questions about like, what are you going to do an author's cut continue of any of your other series as well? And that kind of answers that. My other audiobook question, like I think you're the only person I know who's done Tantor, who's done Podium, and who's done self-publishing. Are there any differences that you would mention between them, like, you know, as far as like advice goes, or just like your particular perception of the 3 process say?
I'm still undergoing my first time of self-publishing.
Right.
So I can't speak a lot to that. It's going to be a lot more work than just handing it off to a company and being like, "Yeah, take care of this for me."
Yep.
However, money-wise, I can't divulge specific contract numbers supposedly, but Amazon Audible takes 60% of revenue for every audiobook sold.
Right. No matter who puts it out. Right.
People need to be aware of that. They take 60%, which means 40% then is what's left for somebody to get. If you sign with a company, you get a percentage of what they make, not what's left, what they make.
Right.
If I had gone with Jeff, he would have wanted royalty splits more than likely, which means that last 40% would have gotten split 20-20 between us with whatever it makes. Or you can pay somebody the flat rate hourly, depending on how long your book is, and pay them, and then that 40% then goes to you. Mm-hmm. So that's if you're looking from a financial standpoint, it's huge. If you're looking at an extra little bit of money would be nice, which was at the time Last Horizons and Alpha World. I really didn't realize how big Alpha World was going to be at the time. It's much easier to just hand it off to a company and be like, okay, this is your baby. Good luck, because you don't get any say at all who narrates if you sign with a company.
I know some companies like, we'll take suggestions, but it's definitely their decision.
It's their decision. Right. I wanted Andrea, or at least a female narrator for Apocalypse Gates.
Right.
And I was talking to Podium about signing with them again. They could not guarantee me even a female narrator. And at that point, I was like, no, never mind then, because I really, really have a hard time with Sexy Times being read by Bubba instead of soft, sexy voice. So,
yeah. I get what you're saying. No, I'm definitely with you as far as like I prefer to hear female voices. I chose a female narrator for my series as well, both Project Alpha and Adventures in Terror, because she was the best one. She did. It was from my point of view. It was easier for her to do like the couple guy voices than it was for like a guy to do a bunch of girl voices. And she was just the best one. But I also heard like, I like a woman's voice more than a dude's voice. And it's very much just like personality and like what you like as an audiobook listener. Like you either like a dude's voice or you would like a woman's voice, and it's usually not a mix of the two for a lot of people. Like there are definitely people who have like very strong viewpoints of like, oh, I like this narrator or I don't, and there's not a lot of middle room.
Yeah. It's totally up to the author what they're going to do audio wise. I won't say anything bad about either company. They are different though. The way they handle communication and just touching back with you are vastly different in some cases, and I'm not going to point out who's who.
Right.
But for my first time of doing self-publishing, I haven't gotten audio files back from Andrea. I haven't gone through the whole listening to them, making sure everything's good, having to do feedback, which is something you don't do at all when you hand it to a company. So that is going to be more time that gets taken away from writing for the audiobook.
No, absolutely. And I absolutely agree. Like if you don't want to hassle with it, go, an audiobook publisher. Like they'll take care of everything. They'll take your intellectual property and they'll just send you a check. And that's fine. If that's what you want to do, it is very hands off. The self-publishing route is more work because, like you said, you're essentially kind of the, I don't want to say editor, but you're listening to the files for yourself, and there's a lot more work in listening to like maybe a 15, 20-hour audiobook multiple times to catch any little errors or to give criticism or rewrites or re-recordings. Like, oh, this voice doesn't sound quite right. Can you try to do it this way? Or whatever it is. Like there is more work as far as like going into it. And so you should be aware that if you're doing it, but the other side, of course, is you might make more money, depending on what you're doing it as. So I think the pros and cons, just what works for you as a writer.
Yeah.
But I would always say like, oh yeah, do an audiobook. If you have the sales for it, if you sales justify it, yeah, it's just extra money that you're leaving there by not doing it. Either way. Okay, let's see. Next on to some Last Horizon questions. Kelly Hartman asked, why did Last Horizon end so abruptly when you could have done so much more with it? Which I think you've sort of touched bases on a little bit.
Yeah, the story for Last Horizons was done. It was originally supposed to be a trilogy. Instead of 2 books. The first book was supposed to end during the one doctor's visit. If you read the chapters, it literally says "the end?" ? And not in the omnibus. In the omnibus, I changed all the chapter titles just to be chapters. That was supposed to be the end of book 1. When I wrote the second half of it, book 2, it was a lot shorter overall than book 1, and I felt bad for just how much reduced it was. So I just put them together and put it out as a single book instead. And I was writing the second half, the last arc of it, when I finally put up the first book, and was actually kind of shocked. I never really thought people would read my stuff like they have. I'm still shocked on a daily basis when I get positive feedback from people. It's pleasant. I'm not used to it. So the second arc, though, that was what was supposed to be the end of a trilogy. It ended where the story was supposed to. I could have drawn out the sickness, really expanded everything, but it would have been, once again, tacking more story on for trying to draw out than following the story as it was being told. And I really have a problem with dragging things out longer than they need to be, which is odd considering the way I write books, being more of a Western light novel or slice of life story than your traditional story arc. But no, I could have, but it would have been wrong, in my opinion, to try to extend it just to extend it. When I ended that series, I was contemplating writing an Alpha World or taking those characters onto the next world. And I have, like I said, I have those notes still of what I was going to do with them. Mm-hmm. And at the time I went, the second book for Last Horizon was received decently. For me, it was received, in my mind, it was still, wow, people will read what I write. Kind of amazing. But I wanted to step away and write something a little grander in scope, which is Alpha World, which I'm still not finished with after a year. Really still trying to get over how long I've been writing now. So I started that, and that was received heads and shoulders above what Last Horizon was when it debuted. It would have been, at that point, that reception really energized me to want to continue that story, to show people more of that world and those characters. So I wrote 2, and then I wrote 3, and then I was like, okay, I should step away and write, and start one of my other series now. I could have gone back to that, but at that point I was also had this mind worm of Apocalypse Gates. And so I wrote that, and I wrote it phenomenally fast, and then rewrote it again phenomenally fast. So I just haven't gotten back to Last Horizon. There are things I want to do with it. I just haven't gotten there yet.
Right. And like you said, it's been a little while, so it's hard to go back to a series when you've already moved on. And sometimes stories just end. Like you run out of things for them, or it's like it's just time to end the thing. I actually like that about Last Horizon specifically. Like 2 books, and then you're done. I'm like, oh, there's definitely a finality here. And like that to me is always nice, because sometimes like you're 7 books into your series, like, okay, where is this going to ever have an end? You really can't have like a 30 book plotline, can you?
Well, that's once again that's a huge difference between the way I write and what most people write. Since I write more of a journey story than hey, we all have to go kill the Dark Lord. It's easier for a story to continue because you're still following character development. You're following their life more than you're following the great overarching scheme of let's go get the magic MacGuffin because we need that to stop the evil AI from destroying the world.
Right.
So Apocalypse Gates is much more open-ended. I don't have an endpoint for it at the moment. I want to take the characters through a number of different gates and let them see this or that. The gates start being seen in book 2, the various gates that open. At the end of book 1, you have the thing that happens where everybody's looking up at the sky and they realize, oh my, that's going to be different because the gates have started to open. So the worlds and the different beings that are going to start filtering into what is Earth for all intents and purposes for the natives, the non-players, are going to be many and varied. And those gates are 2-way portals.
Okay, so that's a very interesting statement.
The main characters can go through to another world.
Well, yeah, I was hoping that was going to be the case at some point.
So
yeah, I actually thought like I pulled stuff from what's his name now? He's another author who does Scotty Fuchs. He does a very similar concept of like, oh, you have a central core hub and you go on these different adventures to other worlds. I actually thought that's what you were going to do in your story when I first started reading it, and then I realized, oh, these are all just on the same planet of Earth. Maybe that's something we'll do later on, because it's a very easy mechanic to adapt. Like, oh, now you have a new door to a different place, so it's very easy to like expand kind of the scope of where your story goes. I even ended up using it in Project Alpha, like a very similar concept. Like, oh, doors to other worlds, plenty of different story ideas you can incorporate.
Galactic Fist of Legend by Fudge. His is very much a central hub with different missions you can go on, which is kind of how Apocalypse Gates starts. Mm-hmm. But the overall story for Apocalypse Gates is vastly different. I don't have video game characters that show up, and there aren't mushroom powers you can get. And I love Fudge for that, the way he writes parody and the way he will mash things together. I love his writing all in all, and just the zany, fun times he has. Apocalypse Gates, though, is going to be very much more grim dark than the lighthearted romp that is Galactic Fist of Legend.
Perfect. Kenny Parker asked about Apocalypse Gate. He thinks it's great first, so yay. He also asks, will the zombies eventually get organized?
Wait for book 2.
Oh, so there you go. Haha. Another stare of like, no spoilers. Perfect. Alexis Keen asks, do you have any more unwritten mind worms? If so, will we see any of them in the future?
Oh God, so many. I've had a couple of fellow authors talk about how hard it is for them to come up with new stories. I don't have that problem. If anything, I have the other problem. I have to keep going back and whacking them down with a weed whacker so they stay down long enough so I can finish other things. Like just last week, I had another story that was just banging at my mind. It wants to be written, and I had to push it back in its cage and reinforce the lock.
Just make sure you take notes. I
have 2 series at the moment. If I do more than that, you guys my fans won't get an Alpha World book for a year. They won't get an Apocalypse Gate book for a year. And I don't want to do that. You guys want the series. I want to give them to you.
Right.
I still have 20 million worms back there trying to tell me, oh, this story's awesome. You should write me, buddy. The ones that are right at the forefront when Alpha World stops, I still have a dungeon story that I've been wanting to write since I read my first dungeon story and went, wait a minute.
That's a cool idea.
People will read that? Because I enjoyed it. That's amazing. There are a lot of things I'm going to do differently. And I kind of look at William Morand and hate him a little bit because some of the things that I was going to do differently, he's doing in his next book that comes out this.
Oh, have you already read it?
I've beta read and alpha read his book, and me and Will have a similar personality set, so we get along. And it's a great book. I'll recommend his book, Dungeon to Pose, when it comes out on the 1st. Read it. I enjoyed it.
After Alpha World 4.
Yes. But some of the ideas behind the way he does a dungeon were very much things that I had spreadsheeted out that were going to be things that hadn't been done yet that I was looking forward to doing.
Right. And
he's done them. I'll probably still follow my original scheme, but then I'm going to get hey, you copied Will. Yes and no.
We're all copying each other, let's be honest. We're all inspired by each other.
But dungeon book, I really still want to write my dungeon book.
Yeah.
I also want to write my really open world sandbox that I have not written yet, where levels might not really be a thing, but skill increases and what you can learn and what you can learn and how fast they're learned is all dependent on who you are. I haven't written that, and that was the one that was battering at my brain last week until I put it back in its cage. There's lots of stories I want to write for you guys. Lots of stories I want to give you. I can only do so much. Even if I went full time, there's still only so much I can do.
Yeah, unless you're going to Michael Scott Earlet or a Michael Chatfield it and write a book a month, it's there are limits.
I've written a book a month. I did it for Apocalypse Gates the first time I wrote it. 4 weeks. It was 108,000 page book I wrote in 4 weeks. It was amazingly easy. So I could maybe, if I pushed myself, do the Chatfield. I don't think I'll ever be a Scott Earl. The man puts out a book every other week.
Right.
I'm really concerned that he's not a human anymore and he's just really an advanced AI that's just siphoning people's memories and then being this will be good. Put it out there. So.
There you go. Perfect. Okay, we're going to move on to some author questions. We still have plenty of questions that you have there. Robert Schluber, what's your process for coming up with abilities?
Depends on the game world. For Last Horizon, it was very much a low-end MMO. For anybody who's read it, it's very much a light lit RPG. It's probably more technically what's called game lit nowadays. But the abilities there, that was more open where you could take any ability you wanted at any given time, but they were very focused on what they did. For Alpha World, like I said, it's based entirely off of MMOs we have today. For Apocalypse Gates, what he has access to via the store and XP right now is not all there is. That will expand and grow as the story progresses and some things happen and interactions take place. So it really depends on the story. It really does depend on the story and what I'm looking for in writing that story.
Okay, perfect. Jeremy Mears asked, let's see, actually, we'll skip that. We asked that one. Eric Plolisa asked, any progress on the online store for merch?
Not yet. I'm still There are a couple of people I'm talking to about websites and getting a website up, and most of it will, of course, lead you back to Amazon to buy my stuff. But once I finally get a website settled and stabilized and everything is up there, then I can do things like put up shirts for you guys to buy. Yes, I know some of you want to buy them. At the moment, you can only win them via contests.
There you go.
I swear I'm not holding it as a carrot out there just to make sure you're active on the page. A little bit. But as soon as I get a website, I do plan to put up a store. And at that point, I will probably go through the process of getting the books out for hard copy. They're not hard copy. They're still soft-bound books.
Print editions.
For putting out actual physical books. Because at that point, then I could, buy some and sign them. And then you could buy signed copies, and I can send them to you.
Right.
So it all funnels down to website at the moment, and I'm not yet settled on that, because if I spend time on that, it once again takes away time from writing, editing, and trying to get the stories out that you guys want.
Perfect. Those are all honest answers, and ones I genuinely empathize with. Like, you're right, getting the website up is first and foremost, because then you have a place to put your stuff, and you can connect to whatever services you're going to use for merch, and all that can be set up afterwards. But until you have that website, it's like, oh, you have nowhere to do things, almost like you have a Patreon, in which case you can, have that as one of your rewards. Okay, more questions from the people who gave them to you. Jeff Irish asks, how do you get yourself in a mindset when writing?
It's a mindset?
Yeah.
Nobody's ever told me that. I sit down, put on some music in the background, reread the last page I wrote, and then my fingers start moving. I've never had the problem of having a mindset, really. No. I mean, the stories are there. They want out. And when I start writing them, the characters start telling me what they're doing and what they're saying. It's a very, very busy place in my head when I start writing. So no, I don't have a mindset. It's never been a problem. I haven't had that writer's block that other people have had yet. I'm sure eventually I'm going to end up in that point where I sit there and I'm looking at my screen and I'm like, what do I do? But I haven't been there yet.
Okay, perfect. So then we'll skip the question about writer's block entirely. What got you writing? That's the question from Robert Barron.
I've been writing a very long time. Most of my stories will never see the light of day, and if somebody ever puts them out to see the light of day, I'll hunt them down and kill them. Most of them are horrible, especially the stuff I wrote when I was like a teenager. The other things I've written, some of them from only a couple years before I started publishing things, they're okay. They're not good. They're pretty bad. I wouldn't be adverse to cleaning them, maybe eventually, and putting them out. But what really got me writing originally was my grandmother when I was a kid, telling us to follow our dreams. Something my dad was never able to do. He's a great musician, was never able to pursue it because wife and kids, and he'd rather make sure we had food on the table than try to go live his dream. He gave up his dream for us. So I started scrawling back when I found out what books were. My mom read The Hobbit to us when we were like 6. And then I read The Lord of the Rings when I was like 8. And at that point, I started writing what you would expect to see written after having read those things, hobbits and dwarves and grand epics of destroying magical items. So that's what got me writing. What got me writing to the degree of publishing things in Last Horizon, my best friend handed me a book, let's say 3 years ago. It was a while ago, which was the first Alter World book. And he said, oh my God, look, they write books about video games. And I went, wait, you're taking the two things I love, video games and writing, and you can put them together? That's amazing. So I read it. And Alter World is a staple. Everybody who reads LitRPG has probably read at least the first book. And I looked at it, and then I read a couple of other series, one of them being the first book of the land after I had started on my first draft of Last Horizon. And I realized that at the time when I was writing it, nobody had written a group story. every book was the solo protagonist transported to the world or wanting to go to the world and stay there for various reasons.
Right.
But nobody had done the group story. And I thought about it while I was writing, and I went, I know a group of gamers. And in 40 years from now, if that technology came available where we could immerse ourselves at the age of like 70 into a video game and we could be healthy and young again while in the video game, what would that be? And that was the story of Last Horizon for me. It really was. That simple concept of books and video games with your friends. What is that story? So, and I had just a couple of years before, I'd lost a friend to cancer. So, main character has medical issues. If you haven't read Last Horizons, spoilers. Sorry, but it's been out over 2 years now. If you haven't read it, you're kind of behind the boat. Then again, with as many books that are published in LitRPG on a daily basis nowadays, I understand how you all aren't getting into it. And Ramon, I don't know how you read as many books as you do.
Yeah, folks,
you're insane.
If you go and read the Last Horizon series, just remember to bring some tissues, and for very different reasons than you would bring for Alpha World. Just letting you know in advance. So,
yes, it's an emotional book.
It is, very much so. Other questions from the audience. Do Androids Dream asks, do you have a favorite underappreciated novel? I'm assuming maybe that you've read.
That I've read?
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh man, I enjoy so many books. If I don't like them, I just put them down after 20% and then just don't read them.
I finish.
If I do not empathize with your main character after 20%, if I don't care what happens to him, I will not finish reading the book. Period. End of story. Just what happens. The rest of the world could be crap as long as I care about the main character. The rest, you can have continuity errors and everything else. I just want to care. But underappreciated books that I've read, I can't think. Most of the books I've read have gotten just due. Maybe Office Wars. It's a crazy book. Patton writes it.
Yeah. Gabe Patton.
But it's a fun, just zany. Well, once you get through the prologue, which is vastly different than the rest of the story, when he gets into the actual game of the Office War, it's a great book. Yeah. I don't think it gets the credit it could have.
Yeah.
He just put out another book, a Dragon series, and I can't think of the name of it right
Dragon
now.
Rider, I think it is. Yeah.
No. Sorry. I beta read that and alpha read that for him, and he added a lot more to it when I pointed out some things. It's a good book. I enjoyed it immensely. It gives character detail and depth to the world and the things he's trying to build off of. Yeah. So maybe that one right now is probably not getting as much attention as it should, in my opinion. It's a good book.
So Office Wars specifically, or the Dragon Rider one?
The Dragon Rider one. Okay. The author is Gabe Patton. Dragon's Fury. I have to look it up.
Yeah, no, I know the example you're talking about. I reviewed it, and I'm like, yeah, this is different than what than Office Wars, very much so. And it's its own independent world that kind of connects to the Odotech world a little bit, but it's mostly almost a standalone novel that just happens to have some of the same tech between the two. And Gabe Patton does a really good job of like planning ahead for like multiple series, like Easter eggs through the entire thing and reconnecting everything. I'm always super impressed by the amount of planning he's doing for like long-term series stuff. I'm like, wow, that's a lot more detail that I put into my stuff. A lot of my stuff is like, oh, I have like 3 books planned, but not 17, or like not cross universe kind of things.
Well, what he did was something that I probably should have done when I wrote my books originally, is he had the concept behind Odotech, which is the central hub for which all of his different books were built off of, which is the massive corporation that runs the immersion stuff that the world is used to. So that gives him one IP with multiple little additional IPs that will build off that central column. Right,
which is kind of the same thing we were talking about before, like that hub world concept, like makes it super easy to like branch off into like just like standalone novels or like other series potentially, but still connect everybody back together to like the same kind of property, like you mentioned. So, like I said, I'm always impressed by that particular aspect of his writing in particular. Other questions. Josh Holm asks, do you plot out sexual content, or does it just happen as you write?
It happens as I write. I got so much grief for Alpha World and sexual content, which kind of surprised me, considering most of it's fade to black. Yeah. The shower scene, by and large, from what I've gotten feedback wise, like killed so many people. They got to that and then they said, "Nah, I can't read this. It's juvenile fantasy." That kind of sets up, though, character interactions and a major reveal at the end of book 1 of what is and how some things work. For Apocalypse Gates, which is much more graphic, it to me, it's when I'm writing where it feels these two individuals, Alvin and Gothi, when they're alone and the way their personalities mesh and how they're trying to understand each other still, and how does an 18-year-old who is looking for affection and love that she's been denied her entire life interact with somebody who will give it to her. And if you're somebody who was a middle-aged man, but now you're in your younger 20s and you have an 18-year-old throwing herself at you, would you say no? So it happens.
Maybe if you're in your 30s and 40s and you just couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you were 38 and all of a sudden you're 22 and your body is back to being strong and virile. I find it hard to believe that any normal red-blooded male in that situation goes, no. I'm sure people do. Mm-hmm. I couldn't imagine doing it.
No, yeah,
especially for somebody who's not in a relationship. So.
No, I always think that the sexual content in your stories feels very much within line with what the characters would do. There's a real difference to me between a novel that has sex as a part of the general story or something that the character would do, as opposed to it being a sex book. And there's some, plot in there somewhere. You know what I mean? And yours is definitely in the former part. Comments from the audience kind of agree already. They're like, Colday says, I think there should be an author's cut for AW with no fade to black scenes. Alexis King says, personally, I think you're one of the few authors who uses sexual content well. It's part of the story rather than gratuitous. So there are plenty of people who know you for your willingness, I think, to explore those concepts without being there just to tantalize. But
the project that was the split between author's cut and not,
which I thought was kind of cool.
Well, it was a test to specifically see where the audience fell. Were they okay with actual sexual content, or was it really just this vocal minority that was hammering me repeatedly in reviews for having any kind of even remotely hinted at sexual content? And that showed me a 40-1 split. The audience is fine as long as it has time and place. It makes sense in the story. So I have considered going back and putting out an AW content where it does not fade to black, and you get all of that graphic content that some people have asked for to see. I'm not adverse to it, because really that would be writing out those specific scenes and then adding to an existing document. So I'm not adverse to it, but once again, that then takes away from me writing more books for you guys.
Right. So many other things you could do.
Maybe I'll put up a poll on my Facebook fan site for you guys. What would you rather have, a new book or an older book just with stuff added?
Yeah, I think I can see where it would be skewed, though, what people would ask for. Yeah,
I will let you guys fight it out in the comments and sit back with my popcorn and be fine.
Yeah, no problem. No, I'm kind of hitting the same issue myself right now, because most of my books are very, family friendly kind of stuff. But right now, just the character arc in Adventures in Terror Book 3, the main character just got out of prison and he's with his lady love, and I'm like, yeah, they're probably gonna have sex at that point because they haven't had sex before. And as far as in a relationship, you're interested in, you're all alone in a wagon somewhere and everyone else has gone away. Yeah, you're probably going to do it. But for me, it was very much very faded by. It's I think I refer to it as they got together and they made Whoopi. And that's how I handle it. But like, I know I understand that other people write differently because that's where their characters kind of go. So,
well, your books are very family friendly in that regard. When people have asked me, personal friends where I live, have asked me for something they could hand to like their 13-year-old. Yours is one of those I mentioned because it's very family friendly. You don't get the graphicness or even the graphic fade to black that you get in like my books. I've told them, don't give my books to your kids.
What is wrong with you? Yeah.
So you write in a way that anybody could enjoy it. I wouldn't feel bad about handing your book to my grandmother. Well, I don't have a grandmother anymore.
Oh,
to my grandfather. And having him read it, I wouldn't feel bad about that. I probably wouldn't hand any of my books to one of my family members, though, and be like, you should read this. Here, Mom, read what I wrote. No.
No, that's like a different books for different audiences, and that's okay. There's plenty of people around who like one or the other. There's plenty. You don't have to choose between them. So there you go. Kenny Parker says he's sitting back now with popcorn. So he's enjoying the drama on the show at least. Moving on to a few more questions. We have Randy Broadwater. Will you do an FAQ about the writing process, how to publish, and how to promote as a help for others?
I'm not the best at giving advice. I have enough hard time following my own advice. Really, I should yell at me more often. The one thing I will always tell a new author is if you're serious about making it a living, you need to treat it as a business from the start. You need to make sure that you have a separate bank account that's going to handle your book money, and all your expenses need to come out of that account. Either you need to keep your books yourself, or you need to get a bookkeeper to keep those books. This way it's all in order for the end of the year when you go to do your taxes, because the government is going to want a significant portion of that money. And if you can prove these are expenses, then that helps reduce things. Because really paying 33% of your income to taxes hurts people.
It sucks.
Always do what I did after the very first check I got from Amazon, and I realized, oh my God, people are going to pay me for this. Take half of what you earn to start with and set it aside for taxes. Just set half of everything aside until you know where you're going to fall on the spectrum. This way, at the end of the year, you're not like, oh no, I owe the government $58,000.
And that's entirely possible.
And I don't have any of that. This way, you're safe. That would be the advice I give. Blaze Corvin has given lots of advice. I think his Patreon page has a list of small articles that he's been writing. There are a number of Facebook groups that are devoted to helping writers. I would tell you to look at all those. I write stories vastly different than everybody else that I've read by and large. Like I said, I write more of a Western light novel or a slice of life book. I don't have a grand story arc in each book. Each of my series has an arc that it follows. But each of my books is not going to give you that satisfactory conclusion you'll get when you read Lion's Quest 1 or Delver's Book 1 or Super Sales on Superheroes. You don't get that same satisfying conclusion at the end of my books because my books are a journey and not a set adventure on their own.
Right. There's no like, first arc, second arc, third arc, resolution at the end kind of setup necessarily. And like I said, slice of life is great. You just have to understand, and that's what you're getting into. And you can appreciate it. Because like it almost feels, for me, slice of life almost feels very like the television series kind of story, like individual capsulized stories, but you're not going to get like full resolution that you would with the movie necessarily, the same kind of plot devices, but it can tell a very interesting story and just a different opportunity to do something different. It's just a setup.
Yeah, all my books are character stories. My books will deal with character interaction more than they deal with a massive combat where you have characters flipping over everybody else or sliding under an opponent's legs or the mage standing in the back that takes him an hour to conjure the spell.
Yeah.
My books are very much focused on that. The only other advice I give you as a writer, write what you want to read.
Yes.
That was Last Horizon. There is no story of friends, a group of friends who are doing this. I'm going to write that. So write what you want to read.
There we go. Couple of questions from the chat room. The Only Hydra Spoon asked, how many books must you sell before you do a book tour? Will you ever do the con scene?
Going to Dragon Con this year. My ticket's taped to my computer at the moment.
Me too. I'd show you, except that people will steal it.
I have hotel reservations already made. I have not done flight stuff yet because some airlines don't let you book more than 6 months out. So I'm going to Dragon Con. It'll be the first convention I've ever hit. But I know people like Ramon will be there. So if worse comes to worse, I'll just go hide behind him, even if I have to turn sideways so you can't see me, because I'm pretty sure I'm a little broader than Ramon. As for a book tour, normally reserved for people who have traditional publishing contracts by and large, because the publishing house normally pays for a book tour or pays the expenses of a book tour. Would I love to do a book tour? Yeah, I'd love to at one point be so successful that I could go state to state and meet all of you, or even, to the UK, because I have fans in the UK and fans in Germany, which I can verify because I'm sending them T-shirts.
Yep.
So it's not just somebody says, "Hi, I'm in the UK." I'm sending him a T-shirt. I just sent a T-shirt to an active Air Force guy who won part of the contest. He's stationed in Germany currently. Yep. And then I had one of the other guys who won lives in Germany. He's German. So I would love to do a book tour. I'd love to be able to just go places and show up to meet people who are actually interested in what I've written. It still boggles me, people. Yeah. I don't understand. These are the stories that have been in my head since I was a kid, and you want to read them. Being a game master, I've run D&D games since I was 13. 25 years of D&D games. So crafting stories is something that I've loved to do my entire life. The fact that you all want to go on the same journey with me and meet those characters and experience their lives is amazing to me. I'm really honored, humbled, literally blown away that even one of you is interested, much less the at least couple hundred that have joined the fan page and want to talk to me on a regular basis, which is why I try to make the time when you message me or you make a comment or you mention my name in one of the other groups so I see it and I can come over and comment back to you. I'm amazed and honored and just want to thank you for doing that. That's what this is for. This Q&A, 300 people, 300 fans to the page is what started this. So this is all because of you guys. I am continually honored. Thank you.
I think it's a really good place to kind of stop the podcast actually at this point. I don't know that we're going to get a better ending than that. The Only Hydra Spoon says, we're just as sick as you. Maybe that's why everyone appreciates your stories, I guess. But honestly, I would love to do con circuit with you at some point. I know some other authors actually do go out of state to do some cons and everything. So it's entirely possible, but you generally require, if you have a more open schedule than like I work like the night shift somewhere. So that is probably a drawback. Like me and you, we both live on the West Coast. We could probably hit some cons together at some point.
As soon as I go full-time writer, yeah. At the moment, though, spending 10 hours a night stuck in a concrete bubble, it makes it a little hard to commit to things like cons.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard you saying. That's why I decided to jump out of the ship and swim for my own. But everyone in the chat room is saying thank you for showing up and for doing this. Alexis Keene, thank you for your books and for being here. Kenny Parker, you the man. Do Android's Dream, thank you. This was fun. You were the best. So lots of appreciation from chat room. And I know we didn't get to ask all the questions from that list, but I think we got all the big ones. And I think this is a great place to end. So everybody, thank you very much for listening, for watching. Remember to go check out Daniel's Amazon page. Go look at all his books. He has plenty of series. We'll have a link in the show notes for everywhere you can find him at, whether it's his blog or his Facebook page or his Twitter or his Amazon page. And of course, I'll link to all of his books as well in the show notes for the podcast. So go check it out. And thank you, Daniel, for hanging out with us and for doing this Q&A. It's actually very nice that you would do this for your fans and for your listeners.
No, I have to thank them. Thank you. I reached out to you because I am very untech savvy when it comes to things like podcasts and how to do this kind of thing. And when I approached you, you were more than helpful, and then you suggested actually hosting it for me. And I believed at that point I fell down and said, thank you. So, no, thank you for hosting it, and then thank everybody for, caring enough to want to ask these questions and wanting to know more.
Yeah, it's definitely fun, and I'm with you, man. I'm always surprised when people are like, you read the stories that I wrote and you actually follow the things that I do. Like, that's really weird. But it's also very loving. So thank you everybody for showing up for the podcast and for the chat and everything. Thank you very much for doing this, Daniel. It was very nice of you. But until we can all hang out again, remember folks to go read some LitRPG, and we'll catch you guys later. Goodbye, everybody.